What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. The weekend is here, and we are ready to get into some basketball. It is a huge slate. I'm here with my man, Eric, Sheets, Haber, and we are going to go through this slate, do some lineup builds, and talk through what we like. There's a lot of things that will probably happen between now. We're at 2:17 p.m. Eastern time. But I think that we can give you a good overall outlook on the slate and break it down with the information that we have. So, Sheets, how you doing today, man? What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first thoughts, again, just the law of averages states that an 11-game slate is going to be, some things that show up late that you're not expecting. I mean, you look at it now and you say, well, I don't see any big, huge value play ready to go. I don't see anybody out that, might not have expected to be out, although news just came in on somebody. And then you just kind of go along your day and you build your lineups and you build your scripts. And then at 6:30, just the whole world changes. So you just kind of have to be ready for that. And as you used to say to me, Bobby, when I would ask you, what news are we waiting on? We would go over the news we were waiting on, and then you would always say, and also the news that we don't know we're waiting on yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And just that just kind of stuff happens, and that's what makes basketball, not for the weak. Let's put it that way. Yeah. But the good news is that it's as it stands now, it's a slate without a huge chalk play. With that, there are a lot of different ways you can go. There's a lot of quote unquote good plays, and it's going to come down to what you kind of want to do and how much variance you want to take, and how you can correlate your lineups as best you can. I'm probably going to script a little bit today because I'm probably not going to be able to hand build something that's going to make me completely happy that I hand built. So we'll see what happens.
It's interesting because I actually like a couple of the hand builds I've gone through so far today, and I found some correlations that I like quite a bit on FanDuel as well. Nice. But I think we should start game by game because one of the big games we should talk about is this first game.
Let's go right after it. Seems like Charlotte and Washington play 5 games a week against each other. I don't, it's not the case, but it just seems to be. And They come right out of the gate. It's so funny. Talk about bookend slate. You have a 235 total to start, and the 235 or 230 is total to finish the slate. We'll get to that later. But the plays from Charlotte and Washington are, well, first I guess start on Washington just to have this up first, is, right out of the gate, Bradley Beal is one of those, in my opinion, 10 plays that are around this price. Maybe there's some a little cheaper that grade out really well in really, really good spots. And as usual, Bradley Beal is probably going to be lower owned than I don't want to say should be, but just going to be lower owned than other guys. And it's just always the case that he just doesn't take the ownership of just some other guys. So Bradley Beal would be probably my best play as far as like the obvious plays on the Washington side. And then you could do whatever you want. I mean, like Thomas Bryant raced out to be okay. I don't think he's that big a deal. If you're an Isaiah Thomas guy, again, I don't think on this slate I'm going to go there. Then you hear rumblings about Moritz Wagner being the new guy who came off a huge game. Was he going to go back at 4,700? I mean, Troy Brown. There's ways you could go, but I think on an 11-game slate, I don't know if I'm going to go this deep. On the Charlotte side, I always think of playing Kemba Walker, but I keep forgetting that he's not there anymore. So on the Charlotte side, the 3 normal guys that I always play or I always look at, and they're still graded to be okay, is Terry Rozier again. Devontae Graham, I would think in this matchup specifically, he would grade out really well, and he does. And Cody Zeller is always a guy that I kind of like having in my player pool, and whether he shows up or not, I don't know. He just grades out to be okay today. And I guess it just, we have to carve out the usual 3 or 4 minutes for you to tell me about Miles Bridges and Nicholas Batum.
I'm actually not going to – I'm okay. Like, here's how I feel about this game. I'm going to have some stacks of this game done a few different ways. I'm going to build it out. I'm going to do what I always, keep saying that I'm going to do against Washington and against teams like Charlotte, but mostly Washington. I would want to try to attack. The problem is these rotations, because they're so deep in Charlotte, like they're weird because they play a lot of players. There's only really guaranteed minutes like over 30 for basically Rozier and likely Bridges. That's why I'm always a fan of Bridges. I like him a ton in this matchup. Of the guys who I'll have the most ownership, it'll be Rozier. I think I'm going to take a shot on Cody Zeller. I think that the minutes are fluky, And I think that you could just as likely see him go back if he plays 30 minutes. He's going to absolutely crush here probably. I really like taking a shot on Monk against a team that just won't guard on the outside. But I don't want to make any of these guys priorities necessarily. I don't mind like having one of them here and there or having them in stacks, but it's not like I feel like I need to. There's like nobody who screams I need to target you, except for I do kind of like the Rozier, Zeller, Bridges combo, one of those guys. And I think PJ Washington, there's upside for him at this price as well. And then you mentioned on the other side, I like Beal, but I probably won't be much ahead of the field on him today. I'll probably be around 15% on him.
Interesting.
There's just other plays. I mean, it's hard for me. I'm having a little bit of trouble with him versus some other guys who are cheaper. And then Mo Wagner, I want some shots on for sure. I think there is upside for this guy if he gets the minutes. Everybody basically to be ahead of the field on is what I would suggest in this game. But don't that's for big tournament entries. If you're playing like one lineup, I don't know that there's anybody you say you need to have. I do like Rui also in this game. These guys, everybody in this game grades out to go above what their normal production should be because of the matchup. The problem is other than Beal, Rozier, Zeller, we don't really know that there's and Devontae Graham. We don't really know that the minutes are going to go crazy for anyone else. I do like Devontae Graham, by the way, in this matchup. I just think I prefer Rozier versus Graham.
Well, I want to ask you about Cody Zeller for a second because I played him a little bit the other day. I don't know if this is a trend or whatever, and I don't know if he was in foul trouble or whatever was going on. But I noticed out of the corner of my eye, and I got to look that Biombo has gotten a lot of run.
Yeah, he got knocked out of the last two games because they were playing better without him. That's basically what happened.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's not – it feels bad based on the recent trends, but if it was a week ago, we'd be talking the other way. So it's like I feel good with the idea that I think there is still upside. I just think it was a weird situation. Anyway, it's a good game to target. There's a lot to go after, but I don't feel like you make it your overall priority. It is one of the games that I like, but it's not my favorite game. And it's just everybody at their – I don't know. I don't feel like there's must-haves, even though there's a lot of good, decent plays.
All right, moving on. Atlanta, Detroit. I can't wait to come to my favorite game because I don't know what it is. So we're by going through this, maybe one will turn on to me because I go back and forth. So Atlanta, Detroit. Again, a pretty good. I think a pretty decent game coming out of the gate at 7:00. I always say I don't like to play these Detroit games, and then I always end up playing them. So, first of all, on the Atlanta side, then we'll get to Detroit in a second, which I think may be more interesting. On Atlanta, for me, it's just Trey and Jabari, or Trey or Jabari, or neither. But if I were going to play anybody from Atlanta, I would play just one of these guys. It's not a day for me to go down on any of these other dudes. So, and that's the projections seem to agree. And their ownership, I mean, it's going to be up there with these guys. I mean, up there meaning, over 10%, under 20 probably. But these, maybe Jabari might be higher, I don't know. But these guys are obviously the plays for me on the Atlanta side. And Detroit, on the Detroit side, this is going to probably really steam you, right? Because Langston Galloway is going to be like 25% now. I mean, you were playing him at 1% ownership, when no one
at 3K too.
Right, and no one wanted any part of him. And now he's 4,500. He's popping on all the projection models, and he's going to be 20%. And maybe he won't be 20%, maybe he will, but I know it's kind of annoying. But he just, for the record, he is showing us a very good value on a day that there isn't that much of it right now. And the other guys from Detroit, again, I don't know why I skipped over it, but Drummond seems to be always a great play. I don't know why he always seems to get a good matchup, but I guess that's just because no one can really stop him from getting his 20 rebounds if he wants them anyway. So he's at 8,500, rates is a really, really good value. And right now, after we get 2 games, he's my favorite center, but we'll get to better ones later. And then there's Blake, who, again, the usual question, can you play them both together? Can you play Blake at all? And this whole thing. But Blake would be the next guy. So it would be any of those 3 guys, either Andre or Blake or Langston Galloway.
Yeah. So for me, this game in Atlanta is pretty simple. I think that there's an outside chance that maybe I played DeAndre Hunter the other night. Unfortunately, I took him out of my giant buy-in lineups because I heard about all the late news with with the Golden State. So I switched over from 42 him at 42 to the 4,400 of Glenn Robinson, which was about a 30-point swing. So look, I like DeAndre Hunter. I think there's still a chance that he might be still underpriced. We don't really know who he is, and he's figuring out who he is still. Like I just think like with John Collins gone, needing to play big, expecting some missed shots in this game because it's not like these guards are terrific shooters. So I don't know. I feel like it just feels like he could have double type of upside easily here and maybe even more. You'd think they'd have to, like some of the big guys, Damian Jones, Alex Len might be more in play because even when they don't play Drummond, they play Wood, and there's a lot of size there. But Parker's a pretty big guy. You could play him and Hunter possibly. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I like Hunter, Young, and Parker about the same in terms of how I'll have them owned. But I do think Hunter's the one that's going to be off the board, and don't be surprised if he comes out with another giant, maybe not as big as he let the other night, but I think you might see more 40-point games from this guy soon to come. And then
that guy's going to be 0% owned.
And he will. I mean, he put up 49 the other night. And he was 0% owned.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting.
He was 0% owned, and no, but I mean, it's just this is what I'm saying. When you give these guys minutes, and we'll get to another guy in a little bit who's just going to be playing minutes. These rookies, and they're at some point they're going to have one of those games. So anyway, Langston Galloway on the other side obviously grades out well. The minutes are just absolutely insane. I don't know that I want to trust all of it at this high ownership, which feels weird. So I'm probably looking at being like maybe a little ahead of the field, but probably pretty close to it. It's annoying to me because, again, I would like to play him at low ownership, but I just feel like a chalky version of him doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense to me. I also think that you could go the guy I don't like to play, Bruce Brown, because of the minutes, but I don't think it's a good matchup for these guys because of Atlanta. That's really why you're playing them. But the bearing the lead, the number one center on the board for me right now is Andre Drummond. I will have a ton of Drummond exposure. I'm not going to be playing much Blake. That's just sort of the way I'm going.
Excellent. All right, moving ahead to I guess the next one I have is Sacramento, Brooklyn.
Yeah, this is a weird one. We have a lot of info we need on this one.
Right. So the two guys that I looked at as being questionable, right, were either Bogdanovic and or Corey Joseph. And if either of those guys are out, I mean, then the slate is completely different, right? So as it stands, right, assuming them both in, okay, on the Sacramento side, I like absolutely zero. Just nobody seems to grade out well. They seem to be efficiently priced, and I really just didn't like anybody on the Sacramento side. If in fact Bogdan is out, then we have we could do a couple of things. First of all, Buddy Hield soaks up all that usage, and he is probably his projections are going to have to just be bumped way higher. And the other thing is that whether Bogdan is out or Joseph are out or one of them are out or two of them are out, Yogi Ferrell then just kind of steps in at 3,500 to big minutes, and on a slate that's kind of needs a guy like this to make other guys work sometimes. Yogi Ferrell is gonna be a really, really big play if either of those guys are out, I think. What do you think?
I'm with you. If just one of them are out, I'm going to be all over Ferrell, and I don't think everyone will be unless he's announced starting. So I think that there's a chance you might still be able to get some lower than should be ownership, but probably not. The truth is that if Bogdan plays, I think that the projections for him are low. I don't think I'm going to play him. I still think Buddy Hield is definitely in play. I think he's actually like very, very likely to get between 40 and 50 against this Brooklyn team. But I don't feel overwhelmingly excited about it. So it's mostly just wait and see for those guys for me. Go ahead.
I was going to, before I forgot, on Brooklyn, again, I know you're not going to like this because you didn't like him. I didn't say you didn't like him, but you didn't think it was anything just that great about him at high ownership last time. But
No. I'm ahead of the field on Dinwiddie.
Oh, okay, but the fact remains that Spencer Dinwiddie, I mean, until LeVert and or Kyrie comes back, he just has the ball in his hands. He's rebounding, he's passing, he's scoring. I mean, he's just doing everything. So 7,600 even still, I know the projection model people also they don't want to just keep on keeping him as great values even though his price keeps going up. But It's just the fact of the matter is that that's just the way the numbers kind of play out. And he's rating as one of the top values on the slate again. And, maybe this time he won't be 20%, maybe he'll be 15 or whatever. He's one of a bunch of guys who is grading out really, really well. So for now, I'm putting him in the, I don't want to say build is kind of like my best guy right now.
Yeah, I gotcha. I definitely am good with that. I still think there's merit for fading him on these kind of slates at high ownership, but so I'm sort of stuck because I'm ahead of the field right now, and I don't know that I'm going to end up there depending on what else happens, especially in Brooklyn. I think that you can take a shot on Prince or DeAndre Jordan, but I'm probably not going to play a bunch of them.
Yeah, I didn't. Neither of those two guys worked out to be that great for me. Joe Harris and Taurean Prince I had as kind of equal, but
Prince is a better play always than Joe Harris.
But Prince is always a better play. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Joe Harris more of a shooter, and Prince is. Prince can go off. Prince can score 50. That's it.
He can get 15 rebounds. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
But Jared Allen, I like. I didn't mean to say DeAndre Jordan. I meant Jared Allen. Anyway, so that's that one. I think we can move on to the Lakers and Clippers.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Lakers and Thunder.
All right. So
Chris
Lakers
Paul.
and Thunder, and again, this is just an exercise I go through every slate. These guys are playing. All right. Question: do I play AD? Do I play LeBron? Do I play neither, or do I play both? And that's always a question I ask. Given this slate, my initial take, and given their prices and where the projections look right now, I'm looking right now to play neither. That's the way I'm looking right now. And I really wanted to play no one from the Lakers side, actually. The one guy I was kind of interested in is, I mean, maybe not today, but I'm looking to see what they end up doing with Kyle Kuzma, because I know that it's a with AD and LeBron, they just soak up so much usage or whatever. But Kyle Kuzma, I think, happens to have a lot of potential, he could do the Lakers and do a lot of teams a lot of good. This is more of a basketball conversation, a DFS conversation. So every time I look at Kyle Kuzma, I wonder what's going to happen with him. Let me just finish. On the OKC side, I find projection-wise a little more interesting. I mean, Shea again kind of shows as a pretty decent mid-range value. The Lakers obviously play really, really good defense, but that's supposedly factored into all this stuff. So Shea's looking to be probably a decent low-owned play, and then the other guys from OKC, the usual guys like Steven Adams, Danilo, Schroeder, even, and Chris Paul, they're just looking to be kind of break-even-ish. Not a big deal for me, but who knows? Maybe you need a $4,800 guy. I would go to Steven Adams, but that's not where I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, he's fine, to take a shot on for me, but I don't think there's any priority. I think the Lakers side is more interesting. I just want to point out that Anthony Davis has had one double-digit rebounding game in his last 7. With the way they play with the other bigs, he's only had one in his last 7 double-digit rebound game. That's ridiculous. Anthony Davis is a very dangerous guy to play in DFS these days because you're now becoming scoring block reliant because they're playing JaVale and Howard who are soaking up the rebounds because Davis just doesn't want to play the 5. That's really going to affect his overall fantasy production and use. Like, he's always a decent play because he can score 50 real life points at 10.1. But I just think I'm going to leave it alone on this slate. I think I'll play LeBron a little tiny bit, but I don't think that I'm going to go crazy with it. I think it's mostly going to be Luka at that price range, honestly, for me. So that's mostly where I'm at.
Yeah. So I'm like at 0 in this game, and you maybe play a little LeBron. I don't know if I can do it.
It depends on the value, obviously. And it's because just that triple double. If him and Luka both get there, you can actually play them together. Like, there's weird things you could do tonight. I don't think I'm going to end up there. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. All right. Miami, Chicago. Chicago is starting to be a little bit annoying for me. Every year there's a kind of a team that's like a little annoying, meaning that I keep playing them and they just never seem to, I don't want to say get there, but either I never seem to get it right or never seem to quite get there enough. Like the other day we played some of these guys and Wendell Carter and Markkanen finally got there, but then I kind of screwed up with respect to the Kobe White ankle injury and the Levine, and so they're getting a little bit annoying. But the first rule is, what's the first rule of AA? Is admitting you have a problem, right? So that's the first rule, is admitting I kind of have an issue with these Chicago guys. So Jimmy Butler, if it were not if he were not going back to Chicago, I would say that he is a really pretty good play anyway. I mean, his projection looks really, really good. He's rating very, very well. He doesn't look to be that highly owned, although he's probably going to have some ownership. But, given the fact, again, that he is going back in Chicago, and I don't know what value that has. I really don't. I can't quantify it. You could think instinctively about stuff like that. But again, even absent that, he's a good play. So those are the types of things where narratives will kind of lean on me a little bit, that if I'm wrong about the narrative, it's not going to hurt me so much. Certainly it's not going to hurt, right? So I think Butler's a good play. And Bam, I don't know if I'll go there today, but Bam is the next guy on that team that I would go to. And on the Chicago side, just in full disclosure, none of these guys are projecting well today. I mean, none of them. Like, they all look bad. But I still might try it. I mean, I still might try maybe a Butler versus Levine 1v1, or maybe even go back to Markkanen or something like that, or Wendell Carter Jr. But just full disclosure, they're not the greatest looking plays in the world today, as opposed to where they have been in the past and where they might be in the future. Miami does play, I guess, decent defense, and Jimmy Butler in particular plays pretty good defense. But if I were going to play Butler, I probably am going to play at least one lineup with Levine or somebody like that from Chicago going back.
Yeah, I don't mind any of taking a shot on the Chicago guys, but it's not a priority for me. I do think Levine is a guy I'll play probably around 10 to 15%, maybe even higher. Like, just he's not going to be owned. He's too cheap. I don't really care about recent trends or anything. The guy's got upside. He's already won me a bunch of money this year just because of the two big games that he had, and I just always play him. Jimmy Butler is my favorite play in this game, and for all the reasons you mentioned. And I'll give him a little extra boost that he's going back to Chicago, but also it's just a good matchup for him, especially as long as we still don't have Winslow. So I think the interesting thing is what happens with a guy like Shaq Harrison. It's obviously not a good matchup, but no one's going to play a guy who just scored 48 fantasy points. I understand, like, it's probably not going to happen in this matchup, and he didn't close even. But, like, at 5K, I'm willing to take a shot or two, or 45 fantasy points, whatever it was. I think he's worth taking a shot or two on. Obviously, got the double-double in that game. He's an active guy. The coach likes him. It's just that we don't really know what's happening. We have no Hutchison, and we actually do have Hutchison back tonight probably, but I think it's really Harrison's job. That's why we have his minutes a little bit lower, because Hutchison's coming back. I don't know. I'm just sort of leaning on taking a shot or two on Harrison, but mostly it's not a priority. I do think he makes more sense on FanDuel.
I'll tell you, 5,000 is so cruel.
It is, but like on FanDuel, he's 44, and he, at point guard, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So, he's definitely a guy, like, in my first FanDuel builds, I found him in there. Didn't find him in my first Draftkings builds, but I do think that he's a guy worth considering at least. So, anyway, I think this game is a weird one. I think it's mostly Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, let's move on to Cleveland or whichever one.
I had San Antonio.
Let's do that.
Next. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So this could be, well, man. I hate games like this. Like, as a numbers guy and a projection guy, whatever, these games always confuse me, because I look at one side of the game and it looks like I want to play nobody. And then I look at the other side of the game and it looks like several players show up to be really, really good values that I want to play.
Right.
So this is a game that's one of those. So on the San Antonio side, I don't like anybody. Now, again, you can make cases for all these guys. I mean, obviously all these guys have upside, but from a projection perspective and the way they're grading out, none of them look like good values to me at all. And yet on the other side, on Philadelphia, number one, you have Embiid, who's projecting really, really well, as, again, one of those, another 9,300, 9,000 guy who's grading out really, really well. And then they have Al Horford at 5,700, who is grading out to be a real, real good points per dollar play. He's going to be really, really chalky. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know
if he is. I actually don't think he's going to be in the end. We'll get to some other guys. There's a lot of guys at that price range that are interesting.
Okay. And then there's and then the other two guys. I mean, Ben Simmons, and I'm honestly back on the don't play Ben Simmons train. You know what I mean? I just really haven't played him, and
yeah, it's not the right time.
Showing is a good value, but I just for disclosure. And then Tobias Harris is looking to be just kind of okay. So in a game like this, I mean, I might want to take one of these Philly guys. I don't want to stack the game or anything like that, just because, again, I don't really like the individual plays from the San Antonio side. So I was looking at Embiid as maybe I don't want to say pivot because Embiid's going to be highly owned. I was going to say that if Drummond became really hugely popular and I could get Embiid at low ownership, I would do it. But Embiid at 9,300, everybody's going to play him too. So it's not like you could do any favors there. And Al Horford, again, you want him at high ownership? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Harris is going to be the highest owned, I think, of the bunch.
Really?
At 62. They're probably going to be similar. Maybe Embiid. It's hard to know, but I think that they'll all be similar. I like Embiid. I'll be a little probably ahead of the field on him. I'll probably be around the field on Harris and Horford, maybe a little below. Not crazy about either of them, although I do think it's worth noting that San Antonio's defense has been really bad and they've been playing fast, which is why this game has a higher total than you'd expect from these two teams traditionally. Philadelphia is one of the better defensive teams in the league, maybe the best in certain aspects, but they still play fast enough. I'm going to throw out a weird guy that Mangone mentioned on the morning grind, and shout out Mangone. DeMarre Carroll. I think that San Antonio mixes it up tonight. I don't know what it's going to be. I hope we hear about it before lock, but there might be a guy who plays a bunch of minutes who we haven't seen. They need to win some games badly soon. So I'm thinking about what if he mentioned how he needs somebody for defense. It just DeMarre Carroll's that's who you got to mention. It's totally speculation, but if you hear something weird like he's starting or something, which is possible, or somebody else enters the starting lineup, just be ready for something from San Antonio tonight. Until then, I don't think you want to prioritize anyone. But.
So here are my thoughts on stuff like that, and I think and these types of plays come up to me quite often, and I heard that as well. When you have a speculative play like this, and look, it is really, really speculative, and it would be great to be on the, to get in front of that, right? To be the guy to have DeMarre Carroll when he scores whatever 25, 30 fantasy points or whatever he would have. But for me, from a probability perspective, given how many players there are in this slate, you know what I mean? I don't know.
But who else is there at extreme value?
Right? No, I know that. But the chances that happens.
Why is it so low though? If he's starting, I don't think the chances are low.
Okay, if he starts, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying that
legitimate possibility.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, if they do announce that he's going to start, then what is his ownership? What happens to his ownership?
Not much, probably a little bit. He gets a little bit probably, but it's just worth thinking about. And honestly, we don't know when it's going to happen. We're still speculating on it at this
But
point.
you're definitely right. Is that Popovich is definitely experimenting with stuff. I mean, he started Podol the other day. He benched DeJounte Murray the other day. You know what I mean? So he started Patty Mills. I mean, he's definitely doing some stuff. But you think that that's the idea? Is getting how old is DeMarre Carroll? You know what I mean? You think that's the answer? I think
without Derek White, they don't know what to do defensively. Without Derek White, DeJounte Murray on the floor, and there's moments where they're not. They're just awful defensively.
And the interesting question is why he would. It's another basketball discussion, but why he would not play DeJounte Murray all those minutes if he's worried about his defense? Because
there's something about that they're bringing him along. Anyway, they're bringing him along for some reason. I don't really know entirely what the minutes thing is with him. Anyway, we can move on from that one.
All right, moving on.
Let's do it.
Cleveland against Dallas. Cleveland playing against. Hey, Luka's the best player in basketball right now, as far as I'm concerned. And like you said, the last time we spoke about this, I mean, you were on him before anybody was. Guy's just freaking crazy. I mean, the last time he played, there was worry about a blowout against Golden State. No problem. He scored 30 fantasy points in the first quarter, right? Or 35. I think he had a triple-double maybe at the half, if not just after the half. And he put up 75 and now he put up 70, 75 fantasy points in 3 quarters of work, right? So in fairness, I mean, he didn't miss a shot. I mean, literally not a shot in the first half. He was 10 for 11.
No, it didn't look very difficult.
No,
it was incredible.
Like I said, he did it in a tuxedo pretty much. So look, I mean, he's now at that level where he's going to be priced at Harden's level. He's just going to be, and that and he doesn't have Westbrook to offset his usage, so he's going to be.
By the way, it's funny because it's funny people say that because Harden's averaging a career high in points. He's averaging a career high in everything.
Right, but it's just going to be the case. I mean, and that's just going to be it, and you're going to have to make a decision on Luka every single day.
Yeah, I want to make a big point on Luka that I think is bigger than all of this. Like,
Yep.
Everybody got on Westbrook, and it's crazy how much the idiots out there hate Westbrook. But anyway, everybody got on him for triple-double hunting and things like that. First of all, you should love that for fantasy. And the other thing is Luka, nobody's more like that than Luka. They left him in up 45 the other night to get his triple-double. They'll clear rebounds for him. And partly it's actually a good strategy to clear rebounds for guys like him and Westbrook so they can rebound and then immediately take the ball out and transition themselves. But he is absolutely a stat chaser. Everybody he passes the ball to knows they have the right to shoot it because he can get an assist. It is absolutely going to keep going. I'm fully on board the Luka train in general. I think that I will probably be ahead of the field on him tonight. My favorite play in this game, though, is not Luka, and it is a really obvious play that literally no one is talking about, and it's actually shocking.
Well,
let me finish my thing though, real quick. Because what is going on in a world where Tristan Thompson is tired, lets you down one game, gets out a game for rest, and then comes back and basically in a much better spot where he went from being 80% owned to now he's not going to be owned at all, and people think because Kevin Love was out. It doesn't matter. Tristan Thompson has been putting up 40s all season long and 50s with Kevin Love in there. This guy's going to get a double-double most of the time here. I'm going to have a ton of exposure to Tristan Thompson, depending on what other value opens up. But I really like him, and I really like Kevin Love also in this game if you want to make it a stack. I don't entirely trust Dallas's defense, so I think this game might be closer. Like, we just saw that blowout, but that was against a Golden State team that had 4 players. This is an interesting game to stack, and I think you could even include Porzingis in it. I think you could include a guy like Sexton or Garland. There's a lot of ways to go. Nobody who I'm going to be crazy overweight on other than Luka and Tristan in general. But I do think that if you want to stack this game, all those other guys I mentioned make for great 4 or 5-man stacks.
Well, I would suggest to you, not suggest to you, here's a hypothetical. Who do you like more at the same price, pretty much, Tristan Thompson or Al Horford?
Thompson.
And you say the answer so quickly, and the fact is that Tristan Thompson is going to be an incredibly high, a minuscule percentage of Al Horford's ownership. So
yeah,
so
he's only center eligible, which is his only downside in that specific 1v1. But I mean, for me, it's Tristan Thompson, and it's just like this is maybe the most I've liked him this year because I haven't been able to get him at low ownership in a long time since the beginning of the year.
Just so you know, from a projection perspective, Porzingis looks pretty good today.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from Luka and Porzingis, no one else is grading out pretty, that well. And on the Cleveland side, the only guys, there's Love and Thompson. I'm not the guy that goes down to guys like usually the guys like Clarkson and Sexton and Garland and guys like that and Osman, especially on a slate like this. I'll take your word for it that Love being back doesn't really impact Thompson. I've just seen games where I guess maybe these are the games that Thompson puts in play where Love could just decide to clear the glass and get every rebound. But at 5% ownership, we can try it.
I'm looking at it right now, and basically every single game this year, except for the games Love were out, Tristan Thompson had a double-double. Every single one of them. I'm looking at this guy. Look at these numbers: 34, 49, 40, 59, 27, 39, 44, 51, 25, 35, 9, 34. Yeah. That was in a 40-point blowout. Anyway, I just think he's a terrific play. Especially, awesome. I'm guessing people will get on it, but if they don't, that's just a great
I don't think so, man. You got Drummond, you got Embiid.
And there's blowout risk, but we've seen Cleveland be kind of pesky this year, It's not like they're playing the gold. It's not like they don't have any players,
Well, what I'm just saying, though, is that I don't think that he's going to be high. I don't think people are getting on him. I think that if people go to that price, they're going to go to Horford.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that because I'm happy just to take all of the shares and then play no Horford or very little.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. You want to do this first, Golden State, Utah, or you want to get rid of Boston, Denver?
Let's get rid of Boston, Denver, in case we hear about, let's say one more guy is out for Utah. For Golden State. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right, okay. My analysis of Boston and Denver is this. I'm not playing anybody from Boston. Nobody looked good to me. And on the Denver side, the only guy I would be interested in is Jokic. And I wouldn't completely sleep on it either. I mean, he doesn't rate that much worse than any of these other guys, if you want to know the truth. I mean, between him and Drummond and even Embiid, I mean, he's a little worse, but he's not that much worse. And he's going to be, I mean, I don't want to say 0%, whatever, but it'll be a fraction, I would imagine, of those other guys. So if you want to, you want something to root for a little later in the day, I guess. We'll get to the other guys we can root for later anyway. But I'm not removing Jokic out of my player pool.
Yeah, I'm not removing him either, but I don't love, I'm not like in love with it. I do think Kemba's a really interesting play for Boston. That's the only guy I would run it back with, but I don't think I'm going to have a ton of them. I just think it's worth noting he's very cheap.
All right.
Then we've got the two big ones, right? The two big games.
All right, so let's talk about this. So Golden State against Utah. We just heard, and this was like a lock to happen. Okay, that Draymond Green is out, and I have a feeling that him and D'Angelo Russell are basically just going to just go to a monastery for the next like 4 months or something like that, and just and not hurt themselves until this team kind of gets their act together. I say that facetiously, but this is a very dangerous situation for Golden State. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of games by a lot of points, and if Draymond plays too many minutes, or if D'Angelo Russell comes back and plays too many minutes, I mean, it could be not the greatest idea in the world. In any case, Golden State now has I don't know how many healthy bodies, but not too many, and you got guys like Alec Burks and Omari Spellman and Glenn Robinson and Pascal and Bowman and Chris and Willie Cauley-Stein and all these guys who are now, I think I would say, pretty cheap, and the usage has to go somewhere. Now, I don't know. They might only score 70 points, whatever, but the usage does have to go somewhere. And we talked about this type of game before we started recording, and these are the types of games. Bobby, you were telling me that you could. I mean, I was suggesting that it's hard to win big slates with games like that. And why don't you tell me what you told me? I mean, these slates can be won with games like this.
So I bubbled in the big buy-in big tournament with a 7-man stack the other day, or 7-man stack with the Dallas against the same Golden State roster. And now obviously some of these guys are a little bit higher priced, but they basically all made value, like kind of or close enough. And they lost by 50 million points. If that game was reasonably close, obviously they would have had to do a lot more. They're all going to get minutes. They're all going to be, you can think they all have upside of 30 plus minutes. There's some guys who are going to have like 40 plus upside minutes. It's just a spot where you really can stack it and pray that it stays close. Pray that it's a 15-point game going into the fourth quarter and that Gobert has to play. So you run it back with a Gobert, a Mitchell, or an Ingles. Play 4 of these guys, 5 of them maybe.
Well, let's talk about which guys you're talking about.
So number one is easy for the one guy who I'll have across. I don't care about if I have to run it back or not. Is Alec Burks. I'm going to play Alec Burks back in Utah. He'll get his. Promise you that. Okay, like this is to me a lock for a 30 to 60 fantasy point game, even in every situation. I think he's got huge upside. I think there's really little risk with him. He's another one of the 5.7 guys I liked, which I mentioned. I like Eric Pascal. I'll probably be about 15 to 20% on all these guys, to be honest with you, including Bowman. Maybe a little bit higher on Bowman. Maybe a little bit higher on Willie Cauley-Stein. Probably about the same on Omari Spellman. I'm going to be rotating them mostly as values because more likely a couple of them get there, but I do think it's worth – I think they mostly get there, but if the game stays close, they could really get there.
Well, let me ask you, you glossed over one guy. What do you think of Glenn Robinson?
So because of the lack of guards, I think he's one of those other guys, 15 to 20% kind of a thing, maybe 10 to 20. I don't like doing that with him on this kind of a slate. So I'll put him as a 10 to 20%er, but like he is still on the map. I mean, he's going to play 35 minutes. He might play 40. He got in foul trouble and played 35. Like it's just, I don't know. All these guys have upside, except I'm not as interested in Poole, but I do like Poole and a little bit Chris. I don't feel crazy about. I like Spellman also on FanDuel where he's 3,700. and I like Willie Cauley-Stein. Like, I just think that there's just upside for these guys. Like, these guys have egos too, and they're going to have to play minutes, and this is their chance to shine. Like, they were playing hard, like fist pumping when they cut it to 38 the other night. Like, Burks made a pass and he didn't even get the assist. It was like he got a hockey assist, and he started fist pumping after somebody made a three. They're playing hard. Like, they're going to try out there. They probably get rolled in this game. I wouldn't get too much exposure to it in general, except for in stacks or some of these guys as 1 or 2 offs, because they're going to get there no matter what. But I just think, like, it's a stack or, like, take 2 Warriors, 1 or 2 Warriors.
Well, you said, well, I wouldn't go too crazy with it, but it's one of those games that if it you said it might blow out, sure, it could, but if it doesn't, I mean, you just have to get it's funny, you can get the Utah guys right? I mean, you could probably want Gobert and Mitchell, or Gobert or Mitchell.
Any of them. Conley, Bogdanovich, they're all good plays. Actually, Royce O'Neal even grades out as a good play for me.
Okay, so you could do this, and boy, it would really suck to get the Golden State guys wrong. So if you're right about this game in general, so I think you really would want to take your Alex Burks. You
got to play Pascal. You cannot skip Pascal, because there's absolutely no way that you're making a stack without him, I think.
Yeah, he looked pretty good the other day, actually.
So you probably have to take out Spellman in this case.
You do?
Well, yeah, you got 800 too much.
Well, whatever. I mean, we can change these other
guys.
Butler
or Galloway. Yeah, I have a very similar build to this.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Excuse me. Nobody says you have to take Tristan Thompson. You know who fits in there? Your little Cody guy, right?
Yeah, Cody Zeller. Yeah, why not?
Right.
I mean, there's a wild card play. The only problem is I would actually go with the plays that I feel more comfortable with than this. And the thing is, I don't know that you need. I don't know that Mitchell's the highest guy that I would go for. I do think Ingles is where I'm leaning. So wow. I think Ingles makes the most. I mean, he's been playing 30 minutes, and it's a good matchup. And by the way, he's actually guys like him and Gobert, they can get there in 2.5 quarters. Well, what's weird is Ingles would get the extra run off the bench. So I just think it's I don't know. It's an interesting game stack. It's somewhere I'm thinking about going. I know that it's likely a blowout, and I'm probably going to lose those and forfeit those lineups. But I'm very, very open to that. If it stays close, I'm going to win a tournament.
Yeah. It's that. Well, this is definitely the way you win. You beat 10,000 people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
10,000, 100,000 people.
That's it. All right. And then we got the big hammer here coming up.
So it's the big hammer. It's the island game. It's got the most, it's got all the most famous. It's got the famous players, right? So on the Houston side, I like 2 guys. I like a guy, actually 3 guys. I like a guy named James Harden. He's really good. He's good at basketball. He grades out to be pretty well. He grades to be pretty good value, and he's not going to be that highly owned. I mean, relative to the way he could be.
Sure.
In part because, he's playing. He has a pretty tough matchup, but we can talk about how matchup proof Harden is some other time, or maybe today. Westbrook, again, you alluded to him before. People still sleep on Westbrook, but yet he still Russell Westbrook. And then a guy who you kind of begged me to play the other day, and I didn't play as much of him as I could have or should have.
What's weird is that he didn't have as big. He had the 20 rebounds again, but he didn't do anything offensively.
Yeah, I mean, but that's 4 straight games at 20 rebounds, right?
5. Go back. Yeah, he had another one.
I mean, that's a lot of comfort. You know what I mean? Knowing that he has authority to go. It's not like Westbrook is supposed to get all the rebounds anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's always now. I don't. We got to talk about it, I guess. If Daniel House is out, you got to play? Oh God, PJ Tucker, Austin Rivers, Ben McLemore. Again, on the one hand, I don't want to be bothered with it. Yet on the other hand, do I want to?
PJ Tucker, I feel very good about. PJ Tucker's back at a good price for us. He's 4,100. He could play 40 minutes. He literally could play 40 minutes tonight. Get your PJ Tucker and feel comfortable with it. Don't have any problem with that one.
Right.
Regardless of anybody being in or out, he's a good play. He's going to play a ton of minutes. I know how Westbrook teams play. They are going to try and they can't stand the idea of losing, especially coming to LA. Like, I just want to make it clear this game is going to get out of, like, somebody's going to go crazy, and I think it's the Westbrook-George combination that I'm leaning towards.
Well, let's think about who goes crazy for a second. So on the Clippers side, you have I'm not saying, first of all, you have Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard, and I'm not telling you about fantasy for a second. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Patrick Beverley, right? So between those three guys defending Harden and Westbrook, it's going to be a war. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's going to be a really fascinating game to watch. You know, I know Beverly's probably obviously all pumped up for this, right? Because of all the history with him and Westbrook. There's a lot of history all over the freaking place here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, tons.
And, you know, if you want to go play the game, I mean, you got to tell me, Bobby, because I'm looking at Paul George, Lou Williams, Kawhi, and, you know, Montrez could always obviously play an energetic game. You got to tell me who you like, because I'm not particularly drawn to any of them, but I feel like I should take one of them. Do you have any strong opinion on which of these guys is your favorite?
Yeah, really strong opinion.
Okay.
I love Westbrook tonight. He's my highest owned player. Then I'm going to play a good amount of Capella. I really like Paul George. I think Paul George is, as I look further and further, is just way too cheap with a ton of upside. And this is a really good matchup for the Clippers. I don't even mind Kawhi, which is not a guy I play very often, but I really don't mind him tonight. And I don't mind a little bit of Lou Will, but I mostly am going to be the Westbrook-George combination. I think Westbrook might actually it's going to be interesting to see how they do their rotations with the Clippers. I'm actually curious who they put on Westbrook, because I do think that I actually think you're going to end up seeing Beverly on Harden sometimes too. Like, it's going to be interesting. Anyway, I don't think it matters with Westbrook or Harden, Westbrook especially at 84. It's just so easy for him to get there by accident. And then if he just has a good game, he's going to put up 65. Like, I mean, come on, guys. He also always plays well in LA. Other than the last time where he had 4 fouls in the first quarter, he always plays well against Beverly in general. Like, there's just, let's play the guy when he's not going to be owned. Let's take a stand here. You know, look, that's what I like. That's the good thing I guess I got to get about this slate. I'm either going to make money or really not, because I'm going with guys who are not going to be owned. And I just think it's a mistake. I love Westbrook. I love running it back with Paul George. I think that combination is not going to be very highly owned.
Well, let me ask you something. So if you were going to play that, would you would probably limit, you know, you wouldn't play more than 2 guys from either side of this, right?
I don't mind if you want to play Paul George and Harrell, or Westbrook and Tucker, so you could go 2 each. Like, I don't think you'd want to go much more than that. Although on FanDuel, in all honesty, I have a lineup with Westbrook, Harden, George, and Kawhi.
Right.
And I think I might even have Tucker in there as well.
I tell you, it just you know, it scrambles my brain whenever I try to figure. Whenever I try multiple guys on great teams. You know, you have Westbrook and Harden on the same team. It's just very it's always just very from an eye test, it's very confusing to figure out what to do. But
let me help you with this test a little bit. And I just want to remind people, I said this before the year started, no one gets this right. Everybody's like, oh, well, James Harden can't compete for the MVP because him and Westbrook, and they got to share all these things. And I'm like, okay, so Paul George had the best year of his career with who? With Russell Westbrook. Kevin Durant led the league in scoring twice and won the MVP twice. What years were those? The years he played with Russell Westbrook. Why do we think that it would be any different? Russell Westbrook can create so much attention on one other side of the court just by not doing anything even that it actually opens it up, and Harden is scoring at an all-time rate. So it's not hurting them. And by the way, Westbrook is still going to go out there and do his million things and probably get a triple-double tonight. Like, you got a guy who's 3,000 cheaper than the other guys who are going to get triple-doubles probably. And I think Westbrook gets one as well. I just think you take a shot. You know, it's not even a shot. Like, I actually feel like he can play him. Like, he should be a cash game play at this price. Like, he's going to put up 50 fantasy points more than not here. Let's play Russell Westbrook. That's the main thing we should take away from this game.
Well, why don't you? Because you didn't really go through it yet. Why don't you go through the your expected percentages and like your best plays? Because we've been through so much.
Yeah.
Kind of don't want everybody to lose sight of who we like.
Sure. So overall, Westbrook's my highest owned player, followed by Drummond, Burks, Doncic, Paul George, Tristan Thompson, Then you've got the Dinwiddie, Rozier, Capella, Butler guys. Oh, and Embiid and Zeller. Just beneath him, you've got Gobert, Galloway, Ingles, Harris, Harden, Love. That's sort of pretty good idea of where I'm at this moment.
Well, it's again, everybody watch for the news. Watch for again, like Bobby says, watch for what we're waiting on, and then watch for stuff that we don't know what we're waiting on. Right? It's going to be. I suspect there's going to be something.
Yeah, the Sacramento thing could change everything because then Yogi Ferrell becomes the chalk, and I think pretty good chalk actually, if they're both out. So we got to wait to see what happens, of course. But this is a good baseline. I'm starting to like this slate more when I look at the projected ownership. It's the great thing about big slates. You look at the projected ownership and you feel great about your lineups.
Hang on a minute.
What are you looking for here?
So
we gotta go ahead.
I got you. Hold on. Just give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me 1 second.
There you go, Paul George. Boom. Let's go win 100,000 with that lineup.
All right. So at midnight, whenever this is, well, not midnight because whatever, we'll be back on the sweat when this thing is the winner.
Okay? That sounds good. Follow me on Twitch at BobbyFi81, twitch.tv/BobbyFi81. Keep following us. Please keep giving us the likes on the YouTube. We love doing these videos. I've got a lot of personal DMs from people, but if you can publicly say you like it, I appreciate that. I'm glad we're entertaining you guys, and we're going to keep the videos coming. So really appreciate it. Sheets, anything before we get out of here?
Have a great weekend.
Let's be successful, guys. Check out the NFL video too. For now, we are out of here. Hit me up on Twitter at BobbyFi. Talk to you later.